there are so many business owners out there screaming out for help. There's so much change happening around tech stacks and understanding, and business owners are just lost out there. So they need help. And the reason why I believe it's the best time for bookkeepers is that they're in regular contact. So they've got the ability to be able to help their clients, perhaps a lot more than accountants, which may or may not be in contact with them maybe once or twice a year.
You're listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with your host, Michael Palmer. Listen each week as inspiring guests share their secrets of success to help you increase your confidence, work smarter, and build a business you love. This episode of The Successful Bookkeeper is brought to you by PureBookkeeping.com, the proven system to grow your bookkeeping business.
Welcome back to the Successful Bookkeeper Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Palmer, and today's show is going to be a fun one. This returning guest is an Australian-based bookkeeping business mentor who has worked with many bookkeepers and shared her talents with many Pure Bookkeeping licensees as well. Sharon Francisco, welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much, Michael. I'm really happy to be here.
Oh, it's great to have you. Absolutely great to have you. And it's been a while. It's been a while since we've had you on the show, so I'm looking forward to getting caught up.
Yeah, definitely. It has been a while, actually. There's a lot that's happened in the last 12 months with my business. So that's pretty exciting stuff. I've been working with some amazing bookkeepers and seeing some really cool stuff. I've got a group coaching program now along with a one-on-one program and just loving what I'm doing. I've doing some fun stuff like you. I've been interviewing some cool people. I've got a podcast that's starting next year, the Entrepreneurial Bookkeeper Podcast. And for the Power Hour for Pure Bookkeeping, I interviewed the amazing Ron Baker and had a chat with him about his upcoming book. So we'll have another interview with him early next year. So just lots of fun stuff happening, Michael. It's been awesome.
That's awesome. Always love hearing about it. And yeah, you've had a lot of success with the people that you've been working with as well.
Yeah, definitely. It's I always say when somebody starts working with me, I think, it's you've got to kind of meet in the middle somewhere. There's got to be that passion to want to grow their business and to be able to remove themselves from the compliance and really want to sort of see the vision of where they want to go, not necessarily know how or the steps, but that need and desire has to be there. And if I can bring my energy and the practical steps and the belief and help them with the belief and confidence, definitely it's a match that can tend to create some pretty amazing results, which is awesome.
Very cool. You've worked with so many bookkeepers over the years. I'd really love to know what you see as being those big blocks that you see coming up on their journey to being successful.
Yeah. I was thinking about this, and I don't know about you, Michael. When you go and do programs, I don't know, over the years, the last, makes me feel old, last 20 or 30 years, I've done a bunch of different stuff, of different programs with different leaders and what have you. And you go and you learn about it. It might be some sort of practical thing. It could be like a weekend program or like a longer sort of program. And I always go, oh yeah, that'd be nice. But like, I can see the practical side and the steps that they give you. It's like, I can't see myself doing that. I know when I did a program back in 2017 and I looked around at all the people in the room, I'm like, I get it. I see the steps. I see what they're doing, but I don't know if I can do that. I don't know if I've got the confidence to be able to do that. So I think the key is to have, number one, the practical steps, which is certainly what my program offers. But I really do think that's a small part of it. I think the combination with helping people with the belief that they can actually do it, combined with the confidence building, so dripping that through the program, having those three elements, the practicality, the belief, and the confidence, helping the my clients with that. I believe that's what helps people in general push through to be able to see the small, when you start seeing those small wins and you start saying, oh gosh, this is going to work. And it's kind of like, okay, well, now I've got a little bit of belief. If I just keep putting one foot in front of the other and believe that I can do it and build my confidence from the little wins, I reckon that really helps breaking through the, that rat wheel, that tread, the same all the time, Michael.
How does someone get off that what is it called? Is it there's so many names for it and I'm drawing a blank, but I'm thinking of the little gerbil on a wheel.
Yeah.
But that's not what they call it. But
that little rat wheel where you just keep
a
going.
Rat race.
Yes, yeah. Yeah.
Not really the rat race. It's more like the hamster wheel. Yes, the hamster wheel. It really is the hamster wheel, not a gerbil wheel.
I think for, I don't know, especially women, I think it's like, it feels like it's clear. It's like the obvious answer is there, but we don't seem to be able to get off it because we're juggling, and men too, of course, but most of my clients are women, but we kind of juggle. My kids are older now, but we're juggling kids that drop off, pick up, and I know you do that too, and then there's like, when you get to a certain age, you start getting this brain fog, you're tired. And also too for bookkeepers, and I've seen this firsthand so often, because bookkeepers are able to, because they've got the flexibility with time and they're not sort of answerable to a boss, they're answerable to their clients, but they've got the ability to go and pick up kids, drop them off. But then there's an expectation in the household for them to be everything. So you own the business and you got to do the running around with the kids and you're doing dinner and you're doing like all the extra bits. I feel like that keeps us on the hamster wheel as well. It's kind of like you actually get sort of caught up in that whole extracurricular stuff, whatever that is in your family. And I hear this a lot from clients. It's like, it's kind of frustrating. And I think the first step is to start treating the business like a business, that you're not available at all the time, that you've got to carve out some times for you to be able to start working on the business. And I was going to actually trying to give a bit of a visual, Michael, to help people understand how they can do this. So, can you picture a iceberg like out in the ocean?
Mm.
So
absolutely. Stay away from that one.
Yeah. So think about an iceberg and what we can see out the top of. So the iceberg is us, okay? So the symbolic thing is us. And what we can see at the top of the iceberg is our behaviours, our decisions, our actions, and ultimately the results that we have from those actions, decisions, and behaviours. So that's what we see of each other. But what we're not seeing is what's underneath. And this is where the cool stuff is, right? So they're your skills, your beliefs, your values, and your identity. And the thing that kind of wraps right around the bottom of your skills, beliefs, values, and identity is your environment. And they say that the environment that you plonk yourself in is the most important. So, we've all heard that we're the sum of the 5 people we spend the most time with. That's kind of our environment, who we're listening to. And that's really, that's why we love listening to podcasts and listening to all the people that have achieved the results that we want, because that then builds the belief. So that's part of our environment. But if you're hanging around people that just are stuck on that rat wheel, that'll reaffirm that it's tricky for you to get out of that. But what I love about the analogy with the iceberg is the part where it's got the beliefs and skills. Because if you have a belief that you can't get off that rat wheel, or you have a belief that you can't sell, or marketing doesn't work, or it's really tricky to find good bookkeepers to help, or, they don't do it as good as me, or I just don't have the confidence to be able to hand the work over to somebody else. Systemizing is boring and it's tedious. So when am I going to find the time to do that? Because I'm busy already. So if you've got all those beliefs swimming around in your head, what you're not going to do is go ahead and reach out for something to help you. So to build the skills around that. So hiring great team is around skills. Like that's a skill to have a great team and to lead a great team. And anything you can think of that's holding you back, what's between you and achieving that is the skills that you work on. So that's why I really love the analogy of the identity iceberg, because if you're willing to have a look and navel gaze around your beliefs and see if they're actually still serving you, that's when you can start opening up your whole world to go, you know what, if I just change my belief that this is possible. And I always say to my clients, Michael, think through the filter that you're not a bookkeeper, that you can't go, you know what, it's just as quick for me to do it. I reckon that's a really good one to do, because as you know, when I was building the bookkeeping business with my sister-in-law, I'm not a bookkeeper. So it wasn't an option for me to take the work. I couldn't do it because I'm not a bookkeeper. I had to get really good at identifying what a good bookkeeper was. And of course I did that so beautifully with the pure bookkeeping system, and being able to use the skills test and all that kind of stuff really made me feel confident about hiring the right bookkeepers. But that kind of wasn't an option for me to get back on the books. I had to find good bookkeepers. And I'll talk about this a little bit later as well, but I had to make sure that there was a really good culture, that people wanted to come and work for us. So, and I had kind of a bit of a formula for that as well.
It's an interesting one, because, you know, if you think about your story and building your bookkeeping business up to a significant level and in a very rapid amount of time compared to most bookkeeping businesses, it's evidence, and what you're saying is evidence is the listener and any bookkeeper that's building a business, their biggest hurdle is themselves, is getting in their own way. Like you've said, they thinking about it from, I'm a bookkeeper doing this job, is not what's going to build your business. It's going to take a different way of thinking. And so that's a very, very interesting way of thinking about it, is to stop thinking like you can be the bookkeeper or do the work. You have to step outside. And often we call that working on your business versus in your business. And anytime I've spoken to really successful people in this industry, it's often they've come at it from, they took themselves out of the business on a regular amount of time. They had people around them that would help do that, or there was people in the business that actually weren't bookkeepers or working in the business, so they could work on the business. And it's so easy for someone to look at, well, I've been doing it this way, and I'll just continue it to do it, or that way is not right. Like it's a judgment that's made based on past thinking to say, well, that's, you know, why would I do it this way? Or, you know, why would I go at it that way? And often it just requires that complete clearing of a mindset to then build something that mind wants to actually go and build. It's like what you think's going to get you there isn't actually what's going to get you there.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the irony with it, isn't it? It's so, and I know, yeah, and you've got to have that, and I know it's overused, but you've got to have a big why. And sometimes, you know, sometimes you either make the decision, like you say, okay, this is what I want to shoot for, which is kind of rare, right? Like we need to, for some reason as human beings, we kind of sometimes need to be pushed into that space where we just get to that stage where it's like, I've had enough. I can't. And I think when you're pushed into that space where you're handed your why, so to speak, it kind of makes it so the importance is really there. And certainly that happened for me, because I was passionate about building that business, but I know, like, I quit a very, very good corporate job to go and partner with my sister-in-law. And a week after, I separated from a 26-year marriage. And it was like, you know, it was amicable and it was all fine, but that kind of, I was like, wow, it's just me now. And I think from my perspective, that gave me kind of the understanding of the vulnerability that some people go through in that kind of situation. So I went from, oh, this will be a nice thing to do, you know, go and work with tenure, build a business, to, wow, this is now a must. I have to make this work. Like, I really need to make sure that I give this everything. So I think the feeling that I went through was I actually felt quite overwhelmed with that whole process, because having the feeling like that monkey on my back where it had to work actually made me get quite unwell. I have a thing called Meniere's disease, which is severe vertigo. And that happened within 12 months, and I couldn't drive for quite a few months because it was too dangerous for me to drive. And then my sister-in-law, my brother got a job in West Africa, and they packed up their kids in their household and moved to West Africa for a couple of years. So I had this Meniere's disease. I was by myself essentially. Tanya was still sort of checking in and making sure all the basses were done and what have you. But it was the best thing that could have ever happened to me, Michael, because I was in this place of such vulnerability. And I hate that the hard stuff is what shapes us. It's like, oh man, at the time I just felt like, oh, this is just so hard. But that just made me dig so deep for my why. I was like, right, okay, I'm just going to go to black belt. This is what I need to go to black belt, which is, for those of you that are in pure bookkeeping, know that that's, between 600,000 and 700,000 turnover plus. And so, yeah, that was kind of my real leverage, the driver for me to do the things that I needed to do. And while, they say business success is not a straight line, I certainly made a few mistakes along the way, Michael. I know that it wasn't streamlined, but certainly that was great, because I learned what not to do quite often, and then we're able to sort of shape what I could do, or what worked, and I could make that repeatable. But definitely I couldn't have done it without pure bookkeeping. That was a big Debbie's phone call to Debbie Roberts about every 6 weeks, like, what am I going to do? And she was there helping me along the way, which was awesome. And that's back when pure bookkeeping was 5 physical folders in the office. So it makes me feel a bit ancient, Michael.
Not that long ago, though, but it's amazing how the world changes. And I think it really highlights the mindset that it takes to be successful.
Yeah.
Someone really, the why needs to be massive. And from there, it's going to be learning from others, figuring out how others have been successful, and then taking the actions, getting rid of those beliefs. I mean, one of my favorite, it's so simple. It's just the five key steps to success is a burning desire, which you've talked about, the big why, belief, that it's possible. And that's where most get stopped right there, right? It's like, oh, I really want to have that, but you know what? I'll never be able to. Well, guess what? You stop. It doesn't go any further than that. And then it is commitment. This will happen.
Yeah.
And then focus. It's like, if you want to go in A direction, but you're doing B direction stuff, you're never getting to the A direction, right? And then the last is the actions, taking those steps. That's it. And you talked a little bit about that as well, which is actually just going and doing the work, which you learn the skill and you get good at it. You can't get good at hiring without hiring. You can't get good at anything without messing it up a few times before you get good at it. And it's those things, when you do them, that actually you form a skill set or a confidence around doing it. Just absolutely love that one, because it's so simple. I mean, everyone should have that written up on their board. It's the burning desire, the belief, the commitment, the focus, and the action. And then if you're sitting there, you can be like, what am I stuck on? Which stage am I stuck on today? That you can get unstuck. There's something that I want to jump back to at some point before we end our conversation, but that's building that firm that people want to belong to, the culture of the firm that you built. And you might weave it into this next question, but I don't want our listener to think, hey, Michael, you stepped over that one, because that I know would be very interesting to learn that. But the question I want to ask is, you talk a lot about firm of the future, and in this industry, firm of the future is a prestigious award for many bookkeeping business owners around that they've done things that have literally built a firm that's prepared for or living in the future. In your mind, I'd love for you to tell us about the ingredients of a firm of the future business.
Mm, mm. Oh, look, I have a belief, Michael, that there is no better time to be a bookkeeper. This is like, there are so many business owners out there screaming out for help. There's so much change happening around tech stacks and understanding, and business owners are just lost out there. So they need help. And the reason why I believe it's the best time for bookkeepers is that they're in regular contact. So they've got the ability to be able to help their clients, perhaps a lot more than accountants, which may or may not be in contact with them maybe once or twice a year. Bookkeepers are building that relationship. So they're sort of in the driver's seat to make a real difference. So if we were to look at the firm of the future and to like this, that's why I get so excited, because there are so many opportunities for business owners, for bookkeepers to, if we put these, I call them the 9 projects, if we put these 9 projects together from a practical sense again, and then put in a big dose of belief and confidence around those 9 projects, that like you can create whatever level business you want. But the firm of the future, the like as a, I guess, a broad brush overview, my belief is building culture and systems is probably 2 of the most important things to do. So if you don't build a great culture, people aren't going to want to work with you. And I know I had this conversation, and I'll just go down a little bit of a rabbit warren with this if it's okay. But I had this conversation a lot with bookkeepers around not being able to find great team to help them out with their business, or find good bookkeepers that they feel confident enough to hand over not just part of the client work, but all of the clients. So to give them the whole like list of clients to step back from the business to be able to grow it. And one of the questions I always ask is, so what are you saying when you're looking for your client, for your bookkeepers? What sort of ads are you putting in? What are you, and then they list off all their requirements, all the things that they want. It might be a cert for in finance accounting, it might be 5 years experience, it might be all the things that, they've got to be on site, or they can work partly off site or on site. When I ask them, like, what are you offering them? What sort of carrot are you offering for people to come and work with you? And quite often I get kind of a blank stare. It's like, well, what do you mean? Like, they're going to be obviously paid well, and you might get some sort of answer around the flexibility and things like that, which is true with our industry. I feel like part of this firm of the future, it's really flipped, Michael. I don't know if you've listened to too much of this with what's going on with the, employment industry now, but it's really kind of flipped. Like when I was younger, it was me trying to pitch to people to, to get a job. And it's kind of flipped now. Have you heard much about this, Michael, where we've kind of really got to pitch to people to work for us?
Yeah, it's shifted. There's incredible things happening in the world all over the place, but the way people relate to employers and vice versa is changing dramatically.
Yeah, and I think I think I did it. I didn't really know that I was doing it, Michael, because I came from that background of coaching business coaches. I had 130 on in Australia that I coached, and then I was promoted to London. I kind of got a sense of what, the business coaches were doing out in the field with the business owners. So I think I left that when I joined Tenure and started building the team. I'd learned sort of a lot of stuff, I guess, by default. And the stuff that I was doing when I was looking for team was kind of pitching to them. I was sort of saying, I'd share with them what the vision of the business was and where we were wanting to take it, and that they were sort of going to be the heartbeat of that. Without them, it wasn't possible for Tenure and I to do what we wanted to do. And also sort of talking about the ability to lead a team of bookkeepers. So that's sort of on the cards as well. So they've got brightness of future, if that makes sense. So they're not just going to be a cog in a wheel. If they really wanted to step up and lead other bookkeepers, that could be on the table as well. The benefits from a training and fun perspective and connection, and what they'll learn, and how that they're not going to be just that cog in a wheel. They're going to feel like they're part of the heartbeat, and that I call it quarterly planning, where you're not doing a review of their work. You're looking, how things are going, how things are tracking, and what do we need to change to make sure you're feeling really comfortable working for me in the next 3 months. And so sitting down and doing a structured sort of planner for the next quarter, rather than looking back and saying this is not working, or on the negative kind of side. So I think those sort of softer skills around culture are really, really important. And I kind of went deep into that sort of section of the firm of the future, because I believe that's one of
I think it's a big piece, because you won't have much of a firm if people don't want to hang out there. And when I say hang out, it's like that is the term. People want to be a part of something. And if that something isn't meeting the needs or desires of today's workforce, they're not going to be there. And that's going to be a major shift for the multi-generation gap between who's running the business today and who's actually going to work in the business.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's a really worthwhile skill to build and to understand. It's a thing I know for myself. For many years I thought, I'm not a leader. And I think leadership is just having, again, I go back to making sure that you set people up to win. And the way you do that is with really good systems. If you've got a predictable system that they feel comfortable that they're following, that's going to give them the outcomes and set themselves up to win, which is, of course, with pure bookkeeping, there's no doubt in my mind. You just can't scale a business without systems. So having the ability to be able to bring people into a nice, tight, systemized business gives people employees, when they first come on board, they make a decision about you within the first 30 days about your leadership. And once that kind of 30 days is over, you kind of, that's it. You've given them the impression of what it's like to work for you. So if they come into something that's either, you're aspiring to be systemized, so you may not be fully systemized yet, and that's okay. The new employee might be part of that systemization process, but sharing with them that you want to be, and this is my words, but I used to say with my potential team member, we're not a well-oiled machine just yet, but you're going to help us become a well-oiled machine. And that's, to begin with, we were getting the newbies to start helping us systemize with pure bookkeeping. So we didn't have all of our ducks in a row to begin with. We had the first couple of bookkeepers help us out with that. So, and then they kind of were part of that, which made it, I guess, a lot more interesting to be a part of it, because they were helping build that as well. The other two areas, of course, and it's another sort of area where a lot of bookkeepers shy away from, is the marketing and sales to attract A-class clients. And there's a step-by-step process that I take my clients through to be able to attract those A-class clients. But if you can't identify the sort of people you want to work with, and I think a lot of people get really caught up in not knowing their niche. And I don't think it has to be complex to understand who you want to work with. It's just, again, it's like changing from, hourly rate to value pricing. It's a one client at a time thing. So it shouldn't be as hard as what we think it is. It's just one step at a time with that kind of stuff, and identifying the kind of industries that you work with currently and see which ones you love working with and go down that rabbit warren. And that may not be it. It might be something else that turns up. But if you're doing enough activity out there, networking, meeting with accountants, something will transpire where you go, yeah, that's where I want to go deep into. And certainly that's what happened with me with the accommodation industry. We niched really strongly into the accommodation industry, and we had a fantastic strategic alliance with the business, and they're still feeding work through to tenure as we speak. So it's, once you develop a really good strategic alliance, it's the gift that keeps on giving. And that's what I kind of talk to bookkeepers about, to be able to help them identify where that might be in their life.
Have you ever come across someone who just couldn't niche?
I've come across a lot of people that feel like they can't, and sometimes the conversation goes that, like, well, why do I have to? Because the feeling, Michael, it's like, well, what if I miss out? That's the big thing I think a lot of people avoid with niching, is that what if I miss out on all the other opportunities? And I've got to admit that was a bit me as well. I don't want to miss out on all the other opportunities. But the thing is with niching, you then become the unicorn. So people, if you go right, say, for instance, with what we were doing with accommodation, there was a certain point of sale, there was a set chart of accounts. It was all like, it was the same all the time. And we would hire bookkeepers that had skills with that point of sale and with the type of work that we particularly needed that would go straight into that niche. So it kind of, once you have a team of bookkeepers that can work in with that niche, then you become attractive to the people that you're working for. And other sort of, I then realized there were accounting firms out there that just work with the accommodation industry. So I was able to pitch to them, we have a team of bookkeepers that work in the accommodation industry, and you can kind of speak the language. And as soon as you sort of start talking to people about the same sort of, industry, they go, oh, wow, you're like a unicorn then. So it just makes you, and that's where you can really service your clients really well. And not only that, you can package up value pricing or subscription pricing around the extras around, not just compliance. So you're doing extra stuff for them, which allows you to be able to charge a premium price because you are the unicorn and you've developed skills and relationships with people that maybe other bookkeepers haven't.
So always interesting. I mean, niching, working on pricing, these are two really big ones. And I'm always curious, and I've seen people struggle with it, but I'm always curious to see, because the people who've done it and made the successful pivot to really focusing in on an industry, their business just does so well. So it's one of those things that I really want our listener to be thinking about if they haven't already, in terms of implementing it or looking for it in their own business model. Mm-hmm. Let's talk a little bit about, you talk about the 9 projects that make up building a firm of the future. Why are they important?
Yeah, and it's just like a roadmap, right? I think having the 9 key projects, again, it's that practical sort of element that we step through around, building the culture and the systems. And, again, we were talking about marketing and sales and attracting those A-class clients. And the last 3 projects are around aligning your prices and understanding how to, like most bookkeepers I speak to, they know they're doing a little bit of scope creep, but when we dive right in, we realise that there might be a lot more scope creep happening than we realise. So scope creep and controlling costs, and also, aligning your prices, not going from that hourly rate through to, value pricing, and now, the new buzzword is subscription pricing. So across all of that is kind of those 9 key projects. It's the practical elements that we step through. But, you need that big dose of belief that you can actually apply these projects, as well as the confidence to be able to build the business with the 9 projects. And it doesn't happen overnight, Michael. It's just step by step. It takes a while to implement these things. And I think a lot of the stuff we know. Do you know what I mean? Like, we know we're not possibly pricing the way that we should, but I think building that belief that you can make changes and have the confidence to start doing that one at a time, it does start sort of slowly turning the ship around. But I feel like you've got to start taking those first steps to be able to turn the ship around. And if we don't take the first steps, that's where we stay stuck in that rat wheel that we were talking about before.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So that's really interesting, and I love the concept of having literally a roadmap. There are 9 projects. Unfortunately, we don't have time to go through all 9, but I'm wondering what you have available that our listener could go and access that would help them start to take a look at this roadmap.
Yeah, sure. So we've got the 9 projects. So it's kind of how you bring clients into your business, what you do with them when you bring them in, and it's kind of step by step with the 9 projects. And then as they go out, like what output are you doing to get the money into your business or to get the revenue into your business? So this is a very comprehensive overview, blueprint of the 9 projects. So your listeners can download that if they'd like to. And also, I've got this really groovy score app where you can actually measure how you're tracking in your bookkeeping business against best practice bookkeepers. So it's complimentary. It takes 2 minutes. And what it does is it's got a really groovy little score that you get the percentage out of 100, and it breaks down. It not only gives you, okay, this is what your percentage is, across those 9 projects, it actually gives you your score in each of the 9 projects and how you can improve, which is the best thing. So it shows where you're at, what sort of, what improvements you can make to help you start working in each of these 9 projects. So I've got the actual blueprint and the score app that I can offer your listeners.
Beautiful. And so we will have those links in the show notes, and that sounds very cool. So I'd love for our listeners to go and get access to those. Sharon, this has been absolutely fantastic. If there was anywhere that our listener wanted to go to, a website, what's the best place for them to go to learn more about you?
Yeah, so everything that I've got is on SharonFrancisco.com. So SHARON, Francisco is FRANCISCO.com, and there's just everything on there. There's actually the Score app on there, so you can do the Score app on there. And you can book a time if you want to catch up. I do a 20-minute strategy session. So if anyone wanted to have a chat about their score or just catch up to have a talk about, a lot of the stuff I talk about, Michael, is the mindset stuff around the beliefs that might be holding us back around taking the steps to get off the rat wheel. So I'm happy just to have a chat and talk about, I always feel, for me, it's like my particular beliefs that I've got. I don't know if anyone can help me with the beliefs that I've got that are holding me back. And then as soon as you talk to somebody that's been where you want to go, you go, oh, okay, you've got those beliefs, or you had those beliefs too. So it's kind of, we've got kind of a common across the board set of beliefs of, we're not good enough, or we can't, or whatever it is. I know I had all of those and still do sometimes. So sometimes just having a chat with somebody through what might be holding us back is helpful.
So true. So true. Yeah. Sharon, thank you so much for getting on to the podcast and sharing your wisdom. On behalf of our listeners, I want to thank you for your generosity.
Thank you so much, Michael. It's been an absolute pleasure. I love catching up with you. And yeah, thank you.
Beautiful. And with that, we wrap another episode of the Successful Bookkeeper Podcast. To learn more about today's wonderful guest and to get access to all sorts of valuable free business building resources, you can go to thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Until next time, goodbye.
You've been listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with Michael Palmer. For more information and to download the resources mentioned in this episode, please visit us at thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Thank you for listening.